Hello, my name is Omar Rabasad. It's Thursday, April 11, 2019 at 2:51 p.m. in Toronto. So I was out and I came in about an hour ago. And I went to the grocery store on my way home. And I was literally shouted at in the grocery store. You're not, she's no longer wanted in the area. Nobody cares for her. She's mentally ill. She's very slow, mentally very slow, um, and all sorts of nonsense like this. So then I was in the drugstore, and I heard that the Muslims have it now. Ranti really wanted it, um, and I think I heard the name Sirmad as well. So Sirmad was looking at her. She's Sirmad's mistress, I heard. I was Badrin's mistress. So the in the videos that I've posted previously, I talked about Paul Bernardo. And in the articles that was written about Paul Bernardo, um, the reference was made about a reference was made to a slave master relationship between Bernardo and Hamilcar. So, of course, the master have a lot of slaves. So Hamilcar sacrificed her sister and got other women for Bernardo to rape, and then it escalated into the satanic ritual abuse and murder when the two came together. Before that, he was raping. So there are two sides, there are two aspects of this. On the one side, there is the possibility that Paul Bernardo was an experimental subject, maybe satanic groups. And there is also a possibility that Carla Hamilcar, because of the way she turned out, and her criminal, sexually criminal intent in what she did, and all her rapes and kidnappings and torture. It was as an end result. This is a possibility. It was as an end result of her being remotely assaulted and trained by pedophiles as a child. Because it's very hard to imagine a child just switching from being an innocent child into a horrifically murderous, raping torturer, sadistic torturer. So something had to have happened to make her do that. So as I said, on one hand, it's possible that these were experiments run by whoever. And then on the other hand, it's possible that he was part of a sex slave operation. So the sex slave traffickers who worked together across ethnic lines cooperated to train masters and then paint victims as prostitutes to feed into the master, or just feed innocent girls into the ring, so they can feed on them, prey on them. Trafficking is one of the major criminal industries that's growing across the world. It's just exponentially expanding. Technology is helping that along. It's making it easier to track people, stalk people. Infiltration of the system. The rise of Satanism in our society. Satanic ritual, rapes, abuse, murders, These are happening more and more in our society. The increase in people preferring both sexes are making both men and women victims of these rings. So in my case, then, um, I have posted on the YouTube website a Chinese woman outside my window in summertime a couple of years ago, talking to this young Chinese girl about making money with the Chinese warlords. And she was mentioning some names from the building. And the girl was sitting on her lap. And I recorded it. She came about 6 or 7 times outside my window. There's a lot of money in it, quote unquote. And she was calling some informant's name as well. Everything else was in Chinese except these English words, loudly. So much so that I recorded it inside of my second floor unit when she was outside my bedroom window. So there is a trafficking ring in the building. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. I'm also being harassed as a prostitute, which I'm not. So why would somebody paint me as a prostitute when I'm not? Well, to sell me, obviously. So then I'm harassed with Badr Nizar being a steward of my estate and myself. Now, why would a strange Muslim man with whom I was working on a 6-month contract become a steward without, of course, telling me? That's a really good question if it's true. Um, then you have people like Surmad and Khalid. These names are being called outside my window. People, again, who was in my workplaces, who I complained about them stalking me to HR or harassing me, if not stalking me. And some of them I complained to the cops. So these are people who I later came to understand through the harassment that I got in the community and in the building, that I was registered and flagged as a prostitute who's also mentally ill. And so these men were taking responsibility for me in the workplace and reporting to the cops about me. Now, why would there be so many Muslim men doing that? I also get remarks such as, and this is part of a charge that went through against me when I called the cops complaining that 2 Muslim women were saying Sir Mad's whore and Khalid could see, which means that these were harassment that I'm receiving outside the window. These are comments that I hear outside the window. People could see me. People are living with me. Men are living with me. People from the building are sending men into me. I'm being mobbed anywhere I go by scouts who comes around me and say things like, Ranty doesn't want you. Nobody wants you. Or Rick doesn't want you anymore. He sold you. It's too cheap. These constant references to my being bought and sold and traded and people living with me. Of course, I'm not physically living with anyone and I'm not a prostitute, so this has to be a remote ring that's being operated. So, are there parallels between the sex slave operation that I suspect Paul Bernardo was part of to what's going on here, to what I'm reporting to the cops, reporting to the HR department, having cases, court cases about, and trying to get attention, bring attention to this remote operation of sex slavery. Now, the question remains as to why the police is not taking fast action to make this stop while I'm being painted based on lies. Now, in Paul Bernardo's case, it took 2 years plus from the time he gave samples of blood and DNA or whatever else he did to him getting caught. Between that time, he murdered 3 women horrifically and kept them as sex slaves. And here I have references in this building and in the public about remote sex slavery, about remote torture that I've demonstrated in my videos with signals and microwaves. So the sex slave ring is being operated based on what I've observed and demonstrated remotely. People are remotely looking at you. People are remotely logging into you. People are remotely torturing you. These masters who are informants. People who are signing me out because I'm flagged, all without disclosure. No disclosure by no one. Absolutely no one is telling you what's going on, but you are being harassed about it. And when you complain about being harassed, you're told you're mentally ill. Well, this is the way you would treat a slave, someone with no rights. I heard my name has been changed in the name registry to a Muslim man's name. Now, in the Muslim culture, Muslim men are allowed to have sex slaves, marry somebody for a day or two and then divorce them. This is done in the Muslim culture. I'm not Muslim. So why would a Muslim man do this? Well, of course, without disclosure. This is criminal activity. This is part of trafficking. This is sex slave operation being carried out. So all the Muslim men whose name are on the accounts who took me out, these are all people taking part in sex slavery. The people in this building, neighbors included, who are calling the cops and lying, saying that I did things that I didn't do. Like men are at my door and I'm opening the side door to people and all this nonsense. These are people who are painting me to take part in the sex slave operation, to sell me or to access me themselves with a link and a password. So there is a sex slave operation being carried out from this building, and it extends into the public places, into the workplaces, into the gyms. People are infiltrated. If the microwave system is satellite based, then the slave could be tracked and monitored and accessed anywhere she is globally. And I heard that my account was globally monitored, which means it has to be satellite based. In other words, I could be accessed anywhere in the world, 24 hours a day, pulsed between my legs, pulsed in my eyes, anywhere in every which part of my body. Torture and to train and to stalk. Double. You have a double, in other words. And doubles are also used to create videos to set you up and frame you as part of the illegal activity. So all the Muslim names make sense on the account because sex slavery is a given in the Muslim world. It's accepted in the Muslim world. So the question remains, when I called 911 at Bridlewood Mall, March 16th, around there in 2016, and I complained about 2 Muslim women harassing me, calling me a whore, get out the store and go to the gym, quote unquote. That's the second time. That was a second occurrence, a week apart, in the same mall. There was absolutely no following because I was scared of them. The cops showed up at my door and charged me. When they were calling me a whore and a prostitute, and Khalid's whore and Surmad could see, referring directly to the sex slave operations. Why was I charged? When the cops knew that I was flagged as a prostitute, and I was no prostitute, because if they had done their due diligence, they would know that I was being profiled and I was no prostitute. There's absolutely no prostitution, none whatsoever. And there is no mental illness either. So why am I being painted as a mentally ill prostitute? To sell and to cover up what's going on. I'm the one who's going to be painted as a criminal, just like a rapist blames the victim. The sex slave operators are turning it around and painting me as a prostitute to cover up what they're doing. And to compromise my credibility, say I'm mentally ill. Talk to you another time. Oh, my pressure. Well, let's take it a second time. The first time I took it, it was quite high. And, well, actually, it's going on 15 minutes. I think I'll just show you. You have to cooperate here. I'm just going to show you the blood pressure that and it's not cooperating right now. So I'll show you next time. Talk to you another time.